So today we're going to talk about something that is really exciting, a protocol. Who loves protocols? Yeah, right. Hey, someone does. Cool. This is going to be awesome. I might have a little issue of making this a really exciting presentation, but we'll try to make the best out of it because it's really, really important. The important thing here is that let's just start. Who remembers Kodak? Kodak had 90% market share. I mean, for film. It means that 90% of all footage, video, photographs, everything in the world was made by Kodak. It's like they're number one. So in 2010, 12, something like that, Kodak went bankrupt. And we know it's because of the digital camera revolution. But that did not sneak up on Kodak. As a matter of fact, Kodak invented the digital camera. In 1994, the first consumer digital camera was released, and it was made by Kodak. So, what happened? Well, their expertise was in film. They trusted film, and their expertise simply became irrelevant. And we don't want that to happen to you. So that's why we're having this talk today. But let me tell you a secret. HTTP2 doesn't change everything like it did with Kodak. As a matter of fact, this new protocol is backwards compatible, and it's not like your site is going to break because of it. HTTP2 is just a little different. And this affects how you should optimize the content delivery of your assets and your websites, and how you program things for the web a little bit. So first, let's go through the history of HTTP, just briefly. In '91, the first specification-ish was released. This is a one-pager. It has like maybe 10 bullet points, and that's the specification. In '96, we got an update to it. And this was more a document that said, okay, this is how we do things today. This is how it works. All the servers and clients had already implemented this. Same thing happened in '97 and '99. HTTP 1.1 came out both years. One is a revision, but actually a study from '96 tells us that 40% of all browsers were already using HTTP 1.1 a year before it was released. So this too was two documents that specified this is how we do things. And that's how it worked. For many, many years in this industry, that's a lot of years. When Google has done a lot of things performance-wise. They released Google Chrome to make a faster, better browsing experience. And in 2012, we started looking at the servers and the protocols we were using, and they figured out something is wrong here. The internet is slow, and what can we do to fix it? So they released this protocol called Speedy. Speedy is already deprecated today. It will be removed next year. So if you haven't got into Speedy, just skip it or use it as a basis, because HTTP2 was released in February this year, and it's built upon Speedy. To give you a simplified description of the differences in the protocols, I welcome you to the HTTP restaurant. Ooh, exciting. Let me try to explain this. The browser is you, the visitor. So that's a browser, like Google Chrome. The kitchen is the server. The server makes things, prepares things, and sends them out. Through a connection, which is our waiter. The waiter will bring things, will bring orders from you to the kitchen, and bring the items back again. The items is, of course, our assets, CSS files, JS files, HTML, images, everything. And that's our food. That's what we want. We don't want the kitchen. We want the food. We want to eat, right? So the 1.0 version of this, the sandwich scenario, we want a sandwich, is that we go into the restaurant and we call for a waiter. The waiter is somewhere and we call for him and we wait until he comes. And then we will order bread because we want a sandwich. And the waiter will bring us bread, and then he leaves again. Well, we don't have a sandwich, so we need to call for the waiter, order cheese. The waiter will bring us cheese, and then he leaves again. We don't have a sandwich yet, we want ham. So we call for the waiter, we order the ham, and this goes on. It takes a long time to get our sandwich. HTTP 1.1 fixed the sandwich scenario a bit. You call for 2 to 6 waiters. Hey, we can have more waiters, right? And we can order one item from all of them, so they can bring us the items we need. And also, if we only get like 2 waiters and we want 4 items, the waiters will actually stay at our table, so we don't have to call them back, and we can just order more, and they will bring back our items. To fix a few things in this protocol, something called pipelining was introduced, which means that you can still use only one waiter if you want to, and you can order all the items you want. You can order the bread, the sandwich, the lettuce, the ham, and then he will go to the kitchen and will get those things and will bring them back to you. The thing is that only Opera with Presto implemented this. All the servers did. Apache, Nginx, whatever is out there, all of them support it because it's part of the protocol. And it also has one other issue, which is that the waiter had to bring all the items in the exact order that you ordered them. So if you have to wait for one of them, you will have to wait for all of them. So it still takes a long time. So the HTTP 2 scenario, the sandwich, is that you call for a waiter, you still need a waiter, you order a full sandwich, and he brings you the full sandwich and a coffee, and he also has some recommendations for you. That's quite more faster. And of course, he will stay at your table if you want to. If that goes well, as in the browser says that, oh, I got those packages, then the server will start increasing how many packets you can send at a time. But it takes a round trip for all of these increments in the number of packets that the server will send. So that's the slow start. And this will of course affect every connection that we set up. You know, if you call for 6 waiters, you have to do this with all of them. The waiters doesn't know how fast you can handle things. So let's dig into the basics. HTTP 2 doesn't say that you have to use encryption, that you have to use SSL or TLS, as it's really called today. So it's not per specification, but per implementation. There's not one single client who have implemented HTTP 2 or will implement HTTP 2 without encryption. That's TLS, not SSL. We're done with SSL by now. Thank you. Another thing, header compression. You know, all those caching headers, information about the document, content length, etc., what kind of document it is. All that info will also be compressed now. That includes the cookies. Like WordPress is a cookie monster, so it has a lot of cookies, and those will be compressed, so things will move a little faster now. And then we're on to, we will use one connection for everything. When you connect to a server, we'll not call for 2 to 6 waiters, we will just call for one. This will fix the issue with the TCP handshake, the SSL handshake, and the slow start. But the reason we were using multiple waiters to begin with was to get more things in parallel, right? Well, HTTP2 uses multiplexing. This is like HTTP2, or your browser will connect to your server, and it will just send everything through, and the server will send everything through, and they will talk to each other. They will talk like at the same time, but they will keep all the things in order, or rather they will put things back in order, which means that the server can actually send images before it sends the HTML. The browser doesn't care. You have this huge pipe that everything goes through, and because very soon the slow start will be over and you will be maximizing your bandwidth. This means that you don't have to, well, I guess some of you have wondered why it takes so long to get this tiny JavaScript transferred on your 100 megabit line. It's because of the slow start. But now you're maximizing your bandwidth, so it will be transferred at actual 100 megabit per second. So the clients just ask, hey, I need this, I need this, I need this. And the server goes, hey, take it all, and take some more if you want to. We'll go into that a little bit later. First, we're going into server hints. This is new. The server, well, it came in Speedy, but it's new. The server will recommend assets. When you get your first HTML document, your server will probably know that, okay, this document includes those images, those scripts, these CSS files, and there's a very likely chance that a script that might take a long time to generate will be needed later, like on DOM ready. So we can just tell the browser to ask for these resources while it's at it. So we can start downloading those in its idle time when it's not downloading anything while it's rendering or something like that. So it can maximize the bandwidth there as well and don't have to wait. We'll circle back on it. Server push is another exciting thing. You have probably heard that the fastest HTTP request is one not made. This is usually applied to concatenation, sprites, caching, etc. But in this case, it is more like you haven't asked for this, but I'll still send it to you. And we'll get back to that. So let's talk about optimizing. How can we actually use these things? It's like we've been through a lot of theory now. Let's get some juicy things. Well, domain sharing. Should we use that? This is loading images from one domain, loading JavaScript from another domain, other static resources from a third domain, etc. And the rule of thumb has been to use 4 different domains for that because of DNS lookups, connections, etc. But stop doing that. Because we have now one connection that can take everything. It's multiplexed. It's a much more efficient way to do it. So if you use domain sharing, you will actually unoptimize your site, meaning that if you're a professional that has done this for 10 years, a noob comes into the industry and he optimizes better than you do because he has no clue. So no clue is actually better in this case. The exception might be for cookieless domains. You probably heard that. You should load static resources that don't require cookies from a different domain. But as you are now transferring everything with 100 megabit per second, if that's your connection, and headers are compressed, I like to do some testing on this before I say what you should do. You should probably still load everything through your one HTTP2 connection. Sprites. Hey, we're combining all the images right into one thing that can be downloaded much faster, and you use that. Well, stop doing that, because your sprites will have pixels that are not necessary. It will have bytes that is not necessary. But that's not the big issue. The issue is that when you need to update one image in your 200 image sprite, is that all clients will have to download everything from the beginning. It can't use parts. It can't cache just parts of its sprite. And again, you have that one super connection where everything is multiplexed. So we just send everything through on that, and there is no issues with it. Minification and concatenation, of course. Well, minification still matters. Minify your JavaScript, minify your CSS. But again, your connection is running at full speed. Headers are compressed. Well, the headers are going anyway. So we're kind of minifying the impact of minification with HTTP2, but still minify your scripts. It's a good thing. But concatenation, stop doing that. It will actually hurt your performance. You are used to concatenate all your JavaScripts, right, into one file that you load on the first page. But that would probably include a lot of JavaScript that is not needed on your site, on that particular page. It might be needed on another page. Or if you update one of the scripts, then the client will have to download all of the scripts again, unless you split them up and load them over the super connection, let's call it that. So concatenation will also hurt your performance. Again, a noob will optimize better than you do because you're optimizing. So stop optimizing that. Okay, we're back to server hints. We can prefetch resources now. The advantages is, well, we have always prefetched resources. We always done that for rollover images and things like that. But now you don't need JavaScript anymore. It's built into the browser. And the browser can download those resources when it's idle, when it doesn't have anything to do. If you prefetch with JavaScript, that JavaScript might compete for CPU cycles or in the, what's it called, the execution thing that JavaScript does with other JavaScripts that are running at the same time. Now the browser can download it when it's convenient for the browser. And the way we are telling the browser to prefetch things can be done by adding a simple HTML tag in the head of your document, like this. You've probably seen this before. Well, similar things like with CSS. And you can also send headers. And you will send a link header, and the relation is that it should prefetch. It's this one. And you can see here that I'm using Firefox. There's something old here, but I'm using HTTP2 release 16. And this is what the waterfall looks like when you are loading all those resources. This actually shows two things. It shows the super connection, and it shows prefetching. All those resources here are being prefetched. You can see over there is our DOM ready, and here we have all those resources loading in parallel from the exact, well, it's outside here, but you could have seen it. It's from the same domain. And if we did this with separate connections, all of those connections would have gone through the orange and a purple part here. The orange part is the connection setup, the TCP setup, and the purple part is the TLS handshake and setup. And server push. Server push is, like I said before, that the server just sends resources to the client without the client asking for it. That might give caching issues because the server doesn't know yet if the client already have the resource and it's already cached. But In your application, you could play with some little tricks like checking for a cookie. If there is a cookie present, then the client will, of course, have already been to your site, so you don't push any assets. If you don't find a cookie, then you can just send it. And to provide a mechanism for the browser to not having to download everything, the browser can say no. The thing is that if your connection is running at full speed at like 100 megabytes per second, and you are sending small images and CSS files, all those resources will already be in the pipe. It will be out on the internet on the way to the browser before they even know about the resources, before they know that the browser is sending things. One cool thing about that is that, well, for one thing, the resources might end up in the browser before the HTML document is there. And when the browser needs those resources, they already have them. So the entire site might just show up like that because all the resources are already there, like it's cached. So you'll have like instant delivery. Now, can we use it? Sure, why not? All browsers will, of course, fall back to HTTP. No, all servers will fall back to HTTP 1.1 if the browser doesn't support it. Chrome, Firefox, and Opera support it. Internet Explorer supports it on version 11 on Windows 10, which is in beta, I think. Safari doesn't support it. Safari is a new Internet Explorer in my head, but they support Speedy. And if you have a server with both Speedy and HTTP2, you will have a lot of these gains anyway. The server side, though, well, the spec was released in February. There's a lot of work to be done to implement it in the servers. But Nginx have said that they will implement it by the end of the year. I've heard nothing from Apache. Does anybody here know what will happen with Apache and HTTP2? If you do and don't want to raise your hand, please come talk to me later. Apache have, actually they have a second server. It's called Apache Traffic Server, is that it? Which supports HTTP2, but I know nothing about that server. So if anybody does, please enlighten me. Other servers that supports it is H2O, which I'm using, and I don't know how to pronounce it, NGHTTP2. Try that. Both of them are experimental servers. They're in alpha stage. Both of them looks like they're actually faster than Nginx, but they don't have fast TGI support, so you can't use them to call PHP directly. If you're using them as TLS terminators, then you can have them in front of Apache or something like that. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you. My name is Bjørn Johansen. I work at a company called Decode in Norway. Both the slides and several resources that I've compiled together will be are available on my website if WordPress have managed to publish it. Any questions? In WordPress, as long as you're enqueuing, well, the question was, can you use Prefetch in WordPress? As long as you're enqueuing your scripts the correct way, and if you set up, well, you have to send it in the headers, right? So if you use output buffering, then you know all the scripts that is on the page. So you can send out the headers before you send out the content. I would only use output buffering if I have a full page caching solution like Varnish or something like that. But yeah, that is doable. And of course, you can make a plugin that remembers what scripts were sent out on the previous request. Something like that, a little bit magic. So the question is how well Google Tag Manager plays with HTTP2. They are loading an external script, so in that matter it will be just the same as today. I think it's actually loaded over HTTP2. I think all Google services are loaded over HTTP2 now. and it plays well. The only thing that's new is that everything is encrypted. Everything has to be over HTTPS, so it should play very nicely. Mobile browsers, the support on mobile browsers. No. It's very well supported. They support Speedy very well. So I think, well, I can just make an educated guess that it will be well supported. Yeah. Good question, though. Anyone else? Okay, so if anyone have any questions or want to discuss something, I will be available throughout the day today and tomorrow as well. If anyone wants to have a workshop or anything like that to set up something, we can of course do that as well. Thank you.